Does anybody remember what the first lesson was about? I mean, it's been 12 hours or less. Anybody remember the title of the first lesson? Good. The Spiritual Masters. Yes, how the Guru is one, how Gurus are different, how they're one and different from the Lord. Oh, and by the way, if you do want the student notes, you can email me, and it's, I'll give you my email. It's just my name at gmail.com. And just remind me you want the notes, and then I'll send you over the zip file of all the 10 lessons. You can look ahead. It's just all the points in outline form. So it's very handy. Lesson 2, the Founder-Acharya principle. In the first lesson, we looked at the Guru principle. What a Guru is. Why we need a Guru. How the Guru is one. How Gurus are different. And how all Gurus are different manifestations of Krishna's mercy. In this lesson, we'll look at the Founder-Acharya, the foundational spiritual master of all Gurus and disciples in his line. So whenever I have a slide to start a lesson, there's a reason. It's not just a decoration. So raise your hand if you can tell us who these personalities are. No? Who is that? Srila Vyasadeva? Madhvacharya. Correct. And the reason I put those people up there is because although Srila Madhvacharya accepted initiation and sannyas from one Achyuta Preksha Swami, since Madhva received the most shiksha, the most instruction, from Srila Vyasadeva, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur listed Madhva as Vyasa's disciple in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So when you see that list, you know, the Disciplic Succession, you see Krishna, Brahma, Narada, Vyas, Madhva. But Vyas was 5,000 years ago. Madhva was only like, you know, in the 1100s, something like that, 1200s. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called his list. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta made that list. And of course when Prabhupada came, Prabhupada was added. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called his list the Bhagavat Parampara, or a line of Bhagavat instructors. Following Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, our Srila Prabhupada noted in 2 early letters. So can you imagine an ISKCON without any books? But until Prabhupada founded ISKCON in July 66. For a couple of years, there were no books. It was just Prabhupada. It was Swamiji, who was Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, grandfather, all rolled into one. And finally, at the end of 68, teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the Bhagavad Gita in a heavily abridged form came out. That's the Gita I read. It was in purple paperback. And Macmillan Company insisted that Swamiji cut the manuscript down from 1,000 pages to about 1/3 the size. Because they were so afraid it wouldn't sell. So reluctantly, Prabhupada did that, and a lot of the purports were left out. Purports to wrong verses. It was all upside down and backwards. But still, enough of Prabhupada's potency came through that it convinced me that this was the absolute truth, especially Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. That was like, okay, this is it. This resolves all the contradictions of life. So in that Macmillan Gita, there what was, the Disciplic Succession. So in those days, there were very few devotees, so the way they communicated with Swamiji, or he was Prabhupada by the end of 68, they wrote him letters. Prabhupada wrote, in the database, there's about 6,500 letters, and there's more on the way. I mean, he probably wrote about 7,000 letters, we can safely say. Amazing. He wrote all these letters, all these centers, so many disciples, constantly traveling, writing books, superhuman. So the devotees were asking about this list. What is this parampara? What is this disciplic succession? And if that's the disciplic succession, where's Arjuna? He's our hero of the Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada wrote back in one letter, he said, yeah, Arjuna accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So things equal to the same thing are equal to each other. That's mathematical axiom. And what else did Prabhupada say? Quote, disciplic succession does not mean one has to be directly a disciple of a particular person. And then in another letter, Prabhupada says, rather, disciplic succession means to accept the disciplic conclusion. So even though Arjuna is not on the list, it's the same Siddhanta. And then Prabhupada gave in another letter, he gave an example of a tree. You have you have these beautiful big trees here in Melbourne. So if you see an oak tree and then you go to one branch and you pluck a leaf, and then you go way over to the other side and you pluck a leaf. And Prabhupada said if you compare the leaves, the taste is the same, Prabhupada said. It means the characteristics are the same. It's coming from the same tree, even though it's different branches. Okay, so the Bhagavat Parampara, or this Shiksha Parampara, includes both the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat. An Acharya who teaches the book by his personal example. A godbrother of mine once asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, in the purport to Nashtaprayesh Vabhadreshu, you say there's two Bhagavats, there's the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat, so which one is more important? So Prabhupada, he would always answer questions differently in different ways, different times, different people. And I mentioned that to you. Don't get confused by the apparently diametrically opposed answers Prabhupada gives, because he's answering according to the person and the place and the time. So in this case, Prabhupada said, the devotee Bhagavat is more important because the Guru can pull your ear. He can correct you. Whereas if you just get a book and read it, we're probably going to twist what we read around our own desires. But the pure devotee, he can actually straighten this out. He can clarify things so we don't misunderstand. Prabhupada, you hear him say in recordings, try to understand, then you hear him say, try not to misunderstand. Because that's what we do. We have this desire filter that twists things around our desires. So we need the gurus, to purify us, set us straight. Quote, the Acharya Sampradaya, this is a quote from a 10.2.31 purport. Prabhupada writes, the Acharya Sampradaya is strictly bona fide. Therefore, one must accept the Acharya Sampradaya. Otherwise, one's endeavor will be futile. We must accept the Sampradaya of people whose instructions and whose example exemplify the book. They're the living book, living Bhagavat. That's how Prabhu has that living Bhagavatam series presenting Srila Prabhupada. As we'll see in this lesson, it is from the Acharya Sampradaya culture, a culture of examples, exemplars, that the Founder-Acharya principle emerges in our Gaudiya Vaishnava line. Let's explore the origin and evolution of Founder-Acharya. See, it's a complex compound. It's English, Sanskrit. This is an organizational word. This is a spiritual term. Teaches by example. So how did this come to be? So that's what this lesson is. It's a history lesson. Beginning from Mahaprabhu's time all the way up to the present day. How this Founder-Acharya principle evolved in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Okay? So do you know who that is?
No.
Take a guess. 6 Goswamis. You counted them. Very good. Okay, want to read? Here we go.
In the 16th century, after the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his chief disciples, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, founded the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha.
Sabha, right. And now let's see what that means. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, it means this.
The Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha is the gathering of devotees who worship the king of all Vaishnavas in the world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes.
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Sajjana Toshan.
Yeah, you don't have to read the reference, but this is the first name of the Hare Krishna movement. Sri Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. The king of all, the gathering of devotees, the Sabha, who worship the king of all Vaishnavas, right? The Raj, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu disappeared what year? AD or CE?
1834.
1534, correct. So within 10 or 12 years after Mahaprabhu disappeared, his chief disciples, the six Goswamis, founded and organized Sangha, an association in his name. So I call this an organizational seed of the Founder-Acharya principle. Something was founded within a dozen years of Mahaprabhu's disappearance. Next we will examine a philosophical seed. So that was, say, circa 1545. And then in 1552, this person published a famous book. So raise your hand if you can tell us. Raise your hand. Yeah? This is supposed to be depicting Srila Rupa Goswami. Kandiya, Kandiya, weeping and weeping. He's writing Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada gave to us as the Nectar of Devotion. And in 1552, Srila Rupa Goswami finished writing his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, wherein he distinguished gurus from great acharyas, a distinction made clearer by Srila Prabhupada in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu summary study, the Nectar of Devotion.
In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami identified the fourth principle of devotional service as sadhu vartmanu vartmanam, which Srila Prabhupada later translated the Nectar of Devotion as following in the footsteps of great acharyas, teachers, under the direction of the spiritual master.
Great acharyas, under the direction of the spiritual master. And in the introduction to Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada wrote this: in our mental activities, we should always try to think of Krishna and try to plan how to please Him, following the footsteps of the great acharyas and the personal spiritual master. Remember in lesson 1 we saw how gurus are one in message, but they differ in their levels of qualification and the role they play and the commitment they make to us. So now I make an observation. As a child may see his parents as everything at first, then matures to see them in perspective, so a disciple may see his spiritual parents and relatives, that is to say his diksha and shiksha gurus, as everything at first, then matures under their guidance to appreciate them in relation to, quote, the great acharyas. Sometimes the example is given, if you're on a big mountain, say you're on Mount Everest, right? And you know it's big, but then when you leave Mount Everest, you come down and you get a little ways from it and you see it in perspective, how big it really is. So sometimes we don't have that perspective, but our Diksha and Shiksha gurus can give us that perspective about the great acharyas. So let's look at how one famous disciple saw his great initiating guru in relation to an even greater acharya. So far we have an organizational seed, the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. We have a philosophical seed, a Nectar of Devotion, published 1552. And then just 8 years later, most scholars concur that circa 1560, this is supposed to be depicting Narottam Das Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur published his song collection called Prarthana, whose songs we sing every morning. In Mayapur they sing Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, right? And every morning we sing Sri Guru Charan. This is all Prarthana. And then yesterday we sang Eya Nilo Premadana. That's Prarthana. So famous song collection. In the 17th song of his Prarthana collection, a song to Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Narottam feelingly expressed the Guru Great Acharya distinction, despite being the only initiated disciple of, who was he the only, who was his guru? Lokanath, of Lokanath Goswami. Narottam prayed to his master in the 4th verse, the 4th stanza of this song, to bring him to the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, who was called the Rasacharya of their Sangha, the Vishwa Vaishnav Raj Sabha. Where's the mic? Okay, so please read that.
In his Prarthana collection, Srila Narottam Das Thakur wrote in the 4th verse of Song 17 a song to Srila Rupa Goswami.
Prabhu Lokanatha Kavi Sangelanya Jabe Shri Rupera Pada Padminure Samarpive, which means, quote,
When will my Lord and Master Lokanath Goswami take me with him and place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami?
yes, when will my Prabhu Lokanath, you know how he came to be initiated by Lokanath? Do you know the story?
Yeah.
It's a very, very touching story. Yeah, because Lokanath, when Mahaprabhu left this planet, Lokanath was so disturbed that he just withdrew. And he said, I will never take disciples, and he just sort of went off by himself. But then when Sri Jiva Goswami at Radha Damodar temple, he had 3 prize pupils, Narottam, Srinivas, and Shamananda. Yes. So Sri Jiva was Narottam's teacher, his Shiksha Guru. So Sri Jiva said, Narottam, you're taking instruction from me, but I can see you've already given your heart to Lokanath. So you must go to Lokanath and beg him for Diksha. Now, both of them knew, everybody knew, that Lokanath wasn't doing Diksha. He just had renounced that. But dutifully, Narottam went to Lokanath and said, my dear Prabhu, please accept me as your disciple. I've given my heart to you. And Lokanath said, I'm sorry, but I've taken this vow. I'm not initiating anybody. So you must approach someone else. So Narottam, he had already had his heart set in Lokanath. So he thought to himself, well, I'm the son of royalty. I'm a prince. And I know that makes me puffed up, even if I don't want to be proud. I know I'm coming from opulence. So to purify myself, even though Prabhu won't accept me, I'm going to do some menial service for him anyway. So what did he do? What kind of service did he do, you know? He cleaned the area where every morning Lokanath did his morning ablutions. He passed and he evacuated. So one fine morning, Lokanath went to do his morning ablutions to get purified, and he noticed the ground was all nice and the water was nice nearby, and he wondered, who did this? But he was so detached, he just, whatever. So he just did his business. This went on for over a year. Finally, Lokanath thought to himself, I'm supposed to be a renunciate. I'm accepting service from somebody for over a year now. I've got to find out who this person is and stop this. So one fine morning, this is in the Narottam Vilas, Lokanath went earlier than usual, because Narottam was going before him and doing it, but then Lokanath hid in the trees. He hid. And then in the half light, the half moon light, he saw somebody approaching, and the person, as he got close, Lokanath said, "Who is that?" And then Narottam realized he was caught. So we came out, from the trees, and there was more moonlight, and he just threw himself at the feet of Lokanath and said, "Please, Prabhu, you must accept me. There's no meaning to my life unless you accept me." Very much reminiscent of what happened hundreds of years later when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was begging for initiation from Gaura Das Babaji. So Lokanath, he said, "Now you know that I've taken this vow. I cannot accept you." But then later, Mahaprabhu came to him in a dream, came to Lokanath and said, "You must make one exception to your vow. You must accept Narottam." So he did. He accepted. Narottam really won him over. His bhakti won him over. He proved his bhakti, and so they were close. I mean, Narottam was Lokanath's only spiritual child. Does anybody have an only child in the room? Is anybody an only child? Okay, you're an only child? So, are you pretty close to your parents? Yeah? Are your parents in the room? I thought so. So when you only have one child, it's very close. We have a joke in America, after a few, you can, "Okay kids, go play with knives. Don't get hurt." It's a joke, but it's a little slacker, So Narottam, you can imagine how close they were. And yet in the fourth stanza of Song 17, Narottam saying, "When will my Lord and Master, Lokanath Goswami, take me with him and place me at the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami?" Because who was Srila Rupa Goswami in relationship to both Lokanath and Narottam? He was there, I said the word before. He was there, what? Did you catch the word? Rasa-Acharya, not Founder-Acharya, because the British were not in India yet, thank God. But as soon as Rupa Goswami published that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, everybody recognized Sri Rupa as the chief. He wasn't the oldest, he wasn't the most famously renounced like Raghunath Das, he wasn't the most prolific like Sri Jiva. But he was the most expert in relishing the moods, the rasas, the mellow tastes of devotion. Prabhupada writes in CC, Adi point 203, Srila Rupa Goswami is described as the Bhakti Rasa-Acharya, or one who knows the essence of devotional service. His famous book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is the science of devotional service. And by reading this book, one can understand the meaning of devotional service. So just as Prabhupada is the Founder-Acharya of ISKCON, it's a branch of the Bhakti Kalpataru, the desire tree of devotional service. So Rupa Goswami, he became recognized as the Rasa-Acharya of the Sri Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha. So even though Lokanath was senior to Narottam, they were both Rupanugas, as we are, also Prabhupada says. Observation, as Srila Narottam Das's Diksha Guru, Lokanath Goswami had the honor of bringing his great and only disciple closer to their Rasa-Acharya, Srila Rupa Goswami. This song by Srila Narottam Das Thakur thus planted a cultural seed of Founder-Acharya. It's not that when Lokanath read this stanza that he thought, "Wow, what is this? He's jumping over me to Rupa?" No, it's not that at all. But they were all, Lokanath knows that it's his pleasure, it's his duty to enrich, enhance, and deepen his disciples' foundational relationship with Srila Rupa Goswami. That's the business of Diksha and Shiksha Gurus. We'll look at that even more later in the Ramanuji line, how that works. Okay, this song I call it a cultural seed. So we have an organizational seed, a philosophical seed, a cultural seed. And that all happened by 1560. Very short order. Within 100 years after Mahaprabhu disappeared, Mahaprabhu allowed his Bhakti Renaissance that he brought to India to be eclipsed, overshadowed, driven underground by so many Upasampradayas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, 300 years later, identified 13 bogus Bhakti Sampradayas that had disgraced Bhakti And that was Mahaprabhu's wish. And we'll see that in the next lesson why Mahaprabhu did that. It wasn't until the Thakur came along and single-handedly revived Mahaprabhu's pure teachings by finding a copy of Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita in Oriya and then having it translated into Bengali. And then approaching the Bhadralok, the Bengali aristocracy, begging them to take a fresh look at Mahaprabhu's teachings, because no respectable Bengali Vaishnava at the time would be caught dead, actually, following Mahaprabhu's movement, because it had been perverted, totally perverted. So in 1900, more than 300 years after the planting of the organizational, philosophical, and cultural seeds of Founder-Acharya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur planted the phrases literary seeds in his Hari Nama Chintamani in Bengali. And we're going to take a look at this. We're just going to look at the seeds. In Hari Nama Chintamani, there's a section on the 10 offenses. And in chapter 6, there's a whole thing about, we say every morning, Guru Ravagya, disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. So in that chapter, Hari Nama Chintamani, okay, where's the man? Okay, Manaji.
In his Bengali work, Harinama Chintamani, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sold the literary seeds of the future English Sanskrit phrase Founder-Acharya in chapter 6, disregarding the good.
So I'm just going to give you the seeds, the translation. I'll read the Bengali and you read the English. So, Sampradaya Radhiguru.
The original guru of the Sampradaya.
Okay, this is in chapter 6, I think it's text 22, 23, you find this verse. Here it's the literary seeds of Founder-Acharya. Shiksha Guru Pratishtita.
A Sampradaya instructing gurus.
Yes. Adhyacharya Yini.
One who is the original Acharya of a disciplic line.
Guru Shiramani.
The greatest jewel of all the gurus.
Yes. So, while planting those seeds, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur made we're going to look at how these seeds appear in translation later in the lesson. This is just a little seed, then we'll see it in full bloom in the verse translation. While planting those seeds, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur made an implicit connection between the prehistorical originators of the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas. Now, who would they be? Who are the prehistorical originators? Who's the primeval guru in our line? Brahma, before recorded history, right? He's the first created being in the universe. And then there's, in the Rudra Sampradaya, it's Lord Shiva, and then in the Nimbarka, it's the Kumaras, and then in the Ramanuja, it's the goddess of fortune, Shri Lakshmi, right? Okay, so in the Thakur, in this work, he made an implicit, that means it's implied, between the prehistorical originators of the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas and the historical acharyas uniquely empowered to represent those primeval gurus in our Kali age. So in the Rudra Sampradaya, it's Vishnu Swami in Kali Yuga who revived the line. In Nimbarka, it's, let's get it away. In the Kumara Sampradaya, it's Nimbarka. And in the Shri or Lakshmi Sampradaya, it's Ramanuja. And in the Brahma Sampradaya, it was Madhva. We're in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So, now we'll see when and how all those seeds sown over 4 centuries fructified as the English-Sanskrit compound Founder-Acharya. Okay, so as we know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Prabhupada called Srila Bhaktivinoda the pioneer of the Krishna consciousness movement. In the modern age, he envisioned, after he single-handedly revived Lord Chaitanya's teachings, then he envisioned a movement that would start bringing the teachings all over the world, because the prediction had been there from Mahaprabhu's time, Kriti Kiti Achayata Nagarati Gram. And as many towns and villages as there are on the surface of the earth, my holy name will be preached. It wasn't happening. So Bhaktivinoda wanted to get it going. So he envisioned a worldwide movement of Vaishnavas, a multiple guru culture, supervised by a governing body commission, and he took that GBC name from the British Railways. They had their governing body, and the Thakur knew that, and so he said, yeah, that's what we need. So we need a governing body to supervise. In case there's anything funny goes with the gurus, the governing body can discipline them and bring them back to the right path. So, but he knew he didn't have time to manifest it. He was getting on in years, so he prayed for a ray of Vishnu, and he got it in his fourth son, Bimal Prasad Bhatt, who became Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's father, Srila Bhaktivinoda, had started in 1879, and it ran till 1904, Sri Sajjana Toshini. So in the 1920s, June 27 and May 28, that's the launch of The Harmonist, which was a free translation of Sajjana Toshini. And let's see, who's got the mic? Okay, read that. Oops.
The English Sanskrit phrase Founder-Acharya first appeared in The Harmonist, the English journal of the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura's Gaudiya Mata.
Yeah, Gaudiya Mata, the Gaudiya mission. That phrase, Founder-Acharya, did not appear in this issue, but in the October 1930 issue, it did appear. And the reason it appeared in the October 30 issue was because the Gaudiya Mata, they were celebrating the launch of a brand new headquarters. They had started very humbly at Altadanga Junction in Calcutta, and then one Jagabandhu, a wealthy disciple, he built this marble palace. And so they had a big launch, and then the Harmonist came out and explained in October, November, December issues, by then it was a monthly, how what the position of the Gaudiya Mata was in relationship to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, as the founder of the Gaudiya mission, what his position was. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta allowed himself to be called in this article the Founder-Acharya. Now, I want somebody to read down to limbs, and it's not easy reading, as the Thakur and his learned disciples were purposely writing and speaking in rather complicated English, because one of their strategies was to out-intellectualize the Western intellectuals in English. I mean, they could speak simply and elegantly, but in public, they did this kind of thing. So this is Professor Nishikant Sanyal, who's the main editor of The Harmonist. Want to try to read that? You can read it slowly. You might get lost in it, but just read down the limbs.
The Gaudiya Mata is also identical with its founder Acharya. The associates, followers, and abode of his divine grace are limbs of himself. None of them claim to be anything but a fully subordinate limb of this single individual. The unconditional, causeless, spontaneous submission to the head is found to be not only compatible with, but absolutely necessary for the fullest freedom of initiative of the subordinate limbs.
You got it? It's complicated in English, but actually what it's saying is that, as Prabhupada said about ISKCON, ISKCON's my body, the BBT's my heart. So everybody is part and parcel of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and they realize their full potential, all the members of the Gaudiya mission, by cooperating with the founder, with the head. Okay, so that was Nishikant Sanyal, who was kind of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's right-hand man, literarily. That was in October 1930. The next reference to Founder-Acharya appears 3 years later in a book called Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So there's Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Volume 1. Srila Saraswati Thakur and the Gaudiya Mission's crowning glory, their finest hour, was in the 1930s, the early 30s, when some Gaudiya Vaishnava preachers went to Europe. They took it outside of India for the first time. And they didn't have much success, but before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta let them go, he knew they had to have a book. In the early 1930s, before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta sent some of his learned sannyasis to preach abroad, he commissioned his scholarly disciple, Professor Nishikant Sanyal, who later became Bhakti Sudhakar Narayan Das, to compile a book about the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The book was written with the gravity and sophistication required to impress the intelligentsia of the West. Now in 1933, after Sanyal finished drafting the book's manuscript, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta spent 2 months editing it. So it was a collaborative effort. Sanyal wrote the manuscript, and then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took it and just went to one of these British hill stations where it was cool during the summer, and he scrupulously edited the book. Now in Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sanyal and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, they made explicit what was only implicit in Srila Bhaktivinod's Harinama Chintamani, namely the strong connection between the prehistorical originators of the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas and the historical reinvigorators of those spiritual lineages for our Kali Yuga, their founder-acharyas. Okay, so let's look. Who's got? Okay, read that. This is from the front matter of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, where Sanyal explains a little more about what a founder-acharya is.
The systems of Sri Vishnu Swami, Sri Nimbarka, Sri Ramanuja and Sri Madhava are connected with the ancient times by their recognition of the remote authority of the eternal ancient teachers, namely Lakshmi, Brahma, Rudra and the 4 Kumaras respectively.
And there's more.
The 4 founder-acharyas of the Iron Age profess to preach the views of those original teachers of the religion.
Okay. So some of us learn better by seeing a visual. So here's how it looks visually. So there's Lord Shiva, prehistorical originator, and in the Rudra Sampradaya, Krishna Swami is the one who reinvigorated the line, and his presentation of the Absolute Truth was called Shuddha Advaita, pure non-dualism. The 4 Kumaras, in our Kali Yuga, the reinvigorator of that line was Nimbarka, whose philosophy was technically called Dvaita. And so there's a duality and a non-duality there. And there's Lakshmi. In the Sri Sampradaya, there's Ramanuja. And his philosophy is called Vishishta Dvaita, qualified non-dualism. And Brahma. And anybody been to Udupi? Yeah? You see in bas-relief outside the temple, you see Madhva. And what is he? Is he flashing? What is he? Flashing the victory sign? Is that what he's doing? There's 2, right? There's Ishwar and Jiva. He's on a real crusade against Mayavad. Right, very powerful. So, note that the philosophy connected with each founder-acharya identifies a particular aspect of the relationship between the Lord and his energies. So they're all Vaishnava Sampradayas, but all the founder-acharyas, they have a little different emphases like that. That's why I have different technical names. In his visionary work, Sri Navadvipta Mahatmya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to each of the 4 Vaishnava founder-acharyas, foretelling his advent and mission. So I never knew this. Because there's another work, Navadvipa Mahatmya, that was in Bengali too, so we didn't have that in English till recently. So it says in there, the Thakur says in there, that Lord Chaitanya appeared to each one of these Founder-Acharyas, and he said something to them, each one. And this is all in Sri Krishna Chaitanya by Sanyal. Quote, from Madhva, the Lord said, he would accept Madhva's complete defeat of the Mayavad philosophy and his service to the deity of Krishna. From Ramanuja, the Lord would accept the concept of bhakti, unpolluted by karma and gyan, as well as service to the devotees. From Vishnu Swami's teachings, the Lord said, he would accept the sentiment of exclusive dependence on Krishna, plus the path of raga bhakti, that's spontaneous devotion. And from Nimbarka, the Lord said he would embrace the necessity of taking shelter of Radha and the high esteem for the gopis' love of Krishna. So Mahaprabhu said, when I come after you, I'm going to take some elements of each one of your philosophy, but then what Mahaprabhu did, according to Sanyal, is something even more wonderful. Inspired by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Navadvipdan Mahatmya, Professor Sanyal noted in Sri Krishna Chaitanya on page 164 that each philosophy of the four Vaishnava Founder-Acharyas, while sound, each one is true, it's not untrue, is incomplete. They're only presenting an aspect of the truth. The philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, quote, this is from Sri Krishna Chaitanya, reconciles, harmonizes, and perfects the four Founder-Acharya philosophies by presenting Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. That's the name of Mahaprabhu's presentation, which is the inconceivable, simultaneous oneness and difference of the Lord and his energies. Now the next slide identifies the foundational role Founder-Acharyas play in their disciplic succession. Okay, so there's the two famous South India Founder-Acharyas, Ramanuja, Madhva. Now, just 2 years ago, Ramanuja celebrated the millennial. Their millennial, not centennial. We had Prabhupada's centennial in 1896. They celebrated a millennial, 1017 to 2017. So that's really something. Providing the core identity and foundational relationship for all generations of their followers, Sri Ramanujacharya and Srila Madhvacharya are outstanding examples of the preeminent position of the Founder-Acharya in the Guru Parampara. So, as Bhaktivinoda Maharaj reminded me when I was presenting in Tiruvananthapuram in Kerala, he said, yes, if you meet a Ramanuja, even today, 1,000 years later, 1,000 years after Ramanuja appeared, and if you ask him who he is, he may say in Tamil, let's see if I can do it without butchering it. Adiyan Ramanuja Dasan, I am your servant, a servant of Ramanuja. So that's how they identify themselves. And I happen to live also in Udupi myself, around near Udupi. I was living on a mountain in an ashram, ISKCON project. And for inspiration, we go to Udupi once in a while. It's about 2.5 hours away by changing buses. And that's what I found too, in Udupi, that Madhvacharya was their main person. The seed is still there in the temple, where he discoursed on the Bhagavad. And they'll tell you that they call themselves Madhvites. And my beloved Diksha Guru is, and my beloved Shiksha Gurus are, but Madhva is the main person. And they really like devotees, ISKCON people, because they know that Prabhupada's pranam mantra is Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Veshatarni, that Prabhupada's also on a crusade against Mayavad. So they invite us to come every couple of years for paryaya, their changing of the seva for Udupi Krishna in the temple. And that's quite an honor. So, what else do I say here? Yeah. So it is, as far as the Ramanujis go, it is Ramanuja's Mahagranthas, his great books that they study. It's Ramanuja's Murti they worship. And it's Ramanuja's mission they execute. So does that sound familiar? Whose books do we study in the morning and evening? Whose Murti do we worship every morning? Have an ecstatic Guru Puja this morning. And whose mission are we executing? Whose life, teachings, mood, and mission, what keeps us together is our Founder-Acharya. Firmly grounded in Ramanuja as their foundational spiritual master, in 2017 the Ramanujis celebrated their Founder-Acharya's millennial, the 1000th anniversary of his appearance in 1017 CE, or AD. For ISKCON, we may note with profit how the Ramanujis and Madhvas have survived and thrived over the centuries by honoring their Founder-Acharya as their foundational relationship and core identity. Let's see here. Okay, so now we're going to go back. In our Gaudiya Sampradaya, let's go back, because we're Gaudiyas, so we want to know how it works in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. In our Gaudiya Sampradaya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Harinama Chintamani offers conclusive statements about the unique position of the Founder-Acharya. So I gave you the seeds, and now we're going to look at how those seeds appear in full bloom in the verses that they constitute. Okay, where's the mic? Okay, Prabhu, so read that.
One should first of all accept the instructions of the Sampradaya, Adi Guru, the original Guru of a Sampradaya, and behave accordingly. In a disciplic succession of Vaishnavas, the previous Acharyas are established respectfully as Shiksha Gurus, Pratishtha, instructing Gurus for the Sampradaya.
Okay, there's more, but so the Adi Guru is Brahma. And then Prabhupada, when he's preaching, he's always referring to the previous acharyas, the Purva acharyas, Ramanuja, Madhva, and they're not even Gaudiyas, but they're all Vaishnavas. So Prabhupada, to support his preaching, he does refer to the previous acharyas. And now here's where the phrase Founder-Acharya comes in. We've already seen it in seed form, so read that.
However, the Adhyacharya. However, the Adhyacharya, the Founder-Acharya,
Pause for a minute. There it is in Bengali. The Adi Acharya or Adhyacharya, the Founder-Acharya or original Guru. Go ahead.
However, the Adhyacharya, the Founder-Acharya or the original Guru of a disciplic line, is appropriately worshipped and respected as Guru Shiromani, the topmost crown jewel of the spiritual masters. His perfect philosophical conclusions are to be followed by all in his succession. Any contrary instruction will not be accepted.
So among a Sampradaya's gurus, note the pivotal position of the Founder-Acharya. For his followers, the Founder-Acharya, quote, the topmost crown jewel of the spiritual masters, is the touchstone upon which his followers test all teachers and teachings. So a measure of our identity as Prabhupada Nugas is how we see all teachers and teachings through Srila Prabhupada. Not that we see Prabhupada through others' eyes. After Srila Prabhupada left this world, as you probably have heard, there was a lot of confusion, and many of my godbrothers went to other Gaudiya Sanghas, and I don't blame them because there was a lot of madness going on. But happily, ISKCON's kind of like the Ganges. It's sort of self-purifying because it's Prabhupada's energy. And so even when things go wrong, they do self-correct in time. They self-correct with the strong efforts of serious and sincere devotees. But some of my godbrothers just they couldn't come back because they were too mortified and hurt by what went on after Prabhupada left. So I was visiting one of these godbrothers, and in his rural ashram, and I could see on his altar, Prabhupada was there, but the Gaudiya Math Guru was more prominent that he had taken shelter of. So that's the difference. He was seeing Prabhupada through others' eyes. But if we're going to be Prabhupada Anubis, if we're going to be in Prabhupada's ISKCON Sangha, if we make this conscious choice to follow Srila Prabhupada, we have to see everybody, Gaudiya, everybody else, Ramanuja, Madhva, through Prabhupada's eyes. He's the one that is the lens. He provides the lens through whom we see all teachers and teachings. And now, because we're now finally approaching specific focus on Prabhupada, this was more of a general zoom out on Founder-Acharya principle. We're going to end, this is the last slide of the lesson before we do questions and answers. We're going to end the lesson by looking at symptoms of a Founder-Acharya, as found in Harinama Chintamani. Now, I didn't find these, but I owe a debt to His Holiness Shivaram Swami, who wrote a book 20 years ago called The Shiksha Guru. It's actually more relevant than ever. Maharaj wrote this in the late 90s, trying to help ISKCON sort of rebuild its guru-disciple culture by fortifying the Shiksha Guru concept, which we need. We need more people acting as serious Shiksha Gurus, as well as Shiksha Gurus. So he studied the Harinama Chintamani, and he, in an English translation, and he noticed symptoms of the Adhyacharya, the Founder-Acharya, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur identifies. So this list is just a few bullet points. My debt is to Shivaram Swami for providing this. So the first bullet point, okay, so read that, Prabhu.
Possesses great spiritual strength.
Great spiritual strength. Even in the material world we say love can move mountains. What to speak of the highest levels of Krishna prema? Because of Prabhupada's compassion, his love, his dedication to the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Mahaprabhu, he changed the course of spiritual history. Great spiritual strength against great odds, tremendous odds. But Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, was on his side. Great spiritual strength, and keep reading.
His teachings take precedence over all others and are compulsory for his followers.
So precedence is a tricky word. It's not that the Founder-Acharya thinks that he surpassed the previous acharyas, but he's been empowered by them to just do amazing things that no one's ever done before. Takes precedence. One time, I think this is in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vallabhacharya, when he went to Mahaprabhu to bring him a commentary on the Bhagavatam, and he announced to Mahaprabhu, whom he accepted as his Lord and Master, that, my dear Lord and Master, I have produced a commentary in the Bhagavatam that surpasses even Sridhar Swami's commentary. I mean, Sridhar Swami is considered to be the original Bhagavatam commentator after Vyas. So Mahaprabhu was taken aback by Vallabha's proud mood. He said, "Oh, you have surpassed the Swami?" Now, Swami is a many-splendored word. It can mean master, or it can even mean husband. So Mahaprabhu was insinuating that if you think you've surpassed your Swami, your husband, you become like a prostitute. So Vallabha got it. He changed his tune, he changed his attitude. So the Founder-Acharya, yes, we see all teachers and teaching through his eyes, but he, the Founder-Acharya, considers himself a humble servant of all the previous acharyas, not somehow that he's surpassed them. Although he does, by their mercy, his teachings take precedence. Okay, another bullet point.
holds a unique post.
Unique post. What does unique mean in English? One of a kind. One. Unique. So sometimes people complain. You mean, Suresvara Prabhu, you mean that in ISKCON there will never be another Nityasiddha, Mahabhagavat, Shakti Vaishnavatar, Uttama Adhikari? And I say, no. Bring them on. We need those people. We need more of those people. But if they're real, if they're actually all those things, what will they do? They won't announce that they've surpassed Prabhupada. They'll be very happy to cooperate with the Founder-Acharya, whose post is already taken. You don't surpass the Founder-Acharya. So it's a unique position of the Founder-Acharya. It's pivotal. Again, he provides the, and you're going to hear me say this throughout the series, the foundational relationship, the core identity. What did I say my identity is? Not so much his initiated disciple as his instructed follower. That's who I am. And we all have it. We all can access that identity as Prabhupada's instructed follower, regardless of our generation or God family, and that'll keep ISKCON together. That's the unity amidst all our ever-increasing diversity. Okay, another bullet point.
Is the Acharya or leader of all Vaishnavas even when physically present?
Yeah, I told the story, I think yesterday, in the Tirobhav, how in Prabhupada's last year he was, that Prabhupada, to protect ISKCON, he had to write and speak so many heavy things so we would not repeat the mistakes of the Gaudiya mission. He didn't want it to break up like the Gaudiya mission did. So, I mean, heavy stuff, you know. So the disciples of Srila Saraswati Thakur and one CC purport, by not following his instructions to form a governing body and work cooperatively, they all became asara, useless, right? So it's strong stuff. I mean, you can't blame him in one sense for being offended or who does he think he is and all this. But Prabhupada only did it out of duty, so that we wouldn't make the same mistake. Yeah. So then I told how Prabhupada said to Bhakti Churu Swami, call all my godbrothers. I have to apologize to them. Because he was in the uttam mood. He was no longer in the madhyam mood of making distinctions and calling a spade and chastising. So he apologized, and they were just completely won over by Prabhupada's humility. No, you're not Mahapatita, you're Mahapatita Pavana, Swami Maharaj. You're our leader, you can chastise us. So at least at the end, they recognized that Swami Maharaj, as they call it, had done what no one had ever done before. Has anybody seen the DVD series Following Srila Prabhupada by Yadavar Prabhu? It's 11 DVDs. This is another must-see, must-hear. It's the ultimate audio-visual record of Prabhupada through the eyes of his direct disciples. Yadavar got a hold of every footage ever taken of Prabhupada, both by himself and his wife, and in ISKCON, and by the non-devotees. And then Yadavar went around and interviewed the devotees who were in those movies. So you're seeing Prabhupada and you're hearing what's going on from the inside by Prabhupada's disciples. So the last memory is by, at the time he was Ayodhyapati Prabhu, now we know him as Bhakti Gringa Govinda Maharaj. And he gave this amazing memory of how when Srila Prabhupada disappeared, he was holding on to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, as were many, including Pishima, Prabhupada's sister, and many devotees. And they were all singing, and then the instant Prabhupada left, the Ramanuja Kaviraj held up the swab, and there was no more movement of the air, and he gestured that he's gone to Golok. And then, if you know the history, Prabhupada's divine form was taken in parikram around Vrindavan in the wee hours of the morning, so that the Brijbasis could have one last darshan of their favorite son, so to speak, because Prabhupada made Vrindavan famous. He put Vrindavan on the world map, and then Prabhupada's body was laid into the ground right below where what you know as the Samadhi Mandir in Vrindavan of Krishna Balaram, between that, underneath that larger-than-life Murti. And then Bibi Govinda Maharaj says, and then I was just dazed. I was just dazed. And then out of nowhere, Prabhupada's godbrother, Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, appeared. And went up to Ayodhya-Prati Prabhu at the time, and said in perfect English, I mean, Bibi didn't even know that Babaji Maharaj spoke English. Because in his last days, Babaji Maharaj would just walk around with a drum, chant Hare Krishna. He was in Babaji order by then. And whenever anybody would ask him a question, his answer was just, Hare Krishna. And he would just hit the drum, you know. And he was visiting Prabhupada in Prabhupada's rooms, you know, when Prabhupada was on a disappearance bed. And they were talking, you know, like little boys, practically. Like nothing was wrong, you know. So Babaji Maharaj comes up to Bibi Ayodhya-Prati and says, did you know that your spiritual master is the greatest spiritual master who ever lived? Did you know that? Now, this is a Diksha disciple of a ray of Vishnu. This is a Diksha disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta telling our Ayodhya-Prati Prabhu that our Prabhupada is the greatest spiritual master who ever lived. So, number one, Ayodhya-Prati didn't even know Babaji Maharaj spoke English, and there he is speaking perfect English. And number two, he was stunned by what he was hearing. And so Babaji Maharaj could see that Ayodhya-Prati was stunned. So he said, do you know why? Do you know why your spiritual master is the greatest spiritual master who ever lived? Do you know why? He was pressing him. And Babaji Maharaj had been at Srila Prabhupada's sannyas initiation at Kesavji Gaudiya Math, when Prabhupada was taking sannyas. And Babaji Maharaj told later that I knew he was going to spread Harinam all over the world, because I was doing the bhajan. I was leading the bhajan at the initiation. And Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj's disciple, who became Sri Narayan Maharaj, whenever the kirtan or the bhajan would get too loud, Narayan Maharaj would say, you know, tamp it down. And as soon as he did that, then Babaji Maharaj said that Swami Maharaj, our Prabhupada, would go like this. I knew then he had absolute faith in Harinam, he was going to spread it all over the world. So when he said to Ayodhya-Prati, do you know why he's the greatest? And then he said, because he did what no one ever did. He spread Harinam the length and breadth of this earth. That's why. So, that's the last memory in the series. Now, one more bullet point. So you must see that. You must get a hold of that.
Awards power of attorney to his followers who strictly adhere to his teaching.
Yeah, power of attorney, power of representation. If I give you power of attorney, you can represent me at the bank, in the court. So Prabhupada, he's so powerful that he had empowered so many wonderful devotees to do so much wonderful preaching. You know, the irony of Ritvikism, which we'll take a look at the end of lesson 9, is that it insults Prabhupada. Not that it glorifies him by saying he's the only guru. No. It insults him by saying he couldn't make inspire people to actually become pure enough to themselves carry on the parampara. Power of attorney to his followers, and there it is again, who strictly adhere to his teachings. That's the qualification to be a guru post-Prabhupada. Okay, so, I'm going to read you the lesson outcomes. So try to frame your questions, make them relevant to these outcomes. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify organizational, philosophical, cultural, and literary seeds of the Founder-Acharya principle as they appeared over time in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. We should be able to recount how the Founder-Acharya phrase advented in the 1930s, identify the foundational role of the Founder-Acharya in the Vaishnava Sampradayas, and finally we should be able to identify symptoms of the Founder-Acharya noted in the Harinama Chintamani. And I'll give you a little preview of this afternoon's lesson. Transition. Having looked at the origin, characteristics, and historical development of the Founder-Acharya principle, we are now ready to examine how our Srila Prabhupada emerged as the Founder-Acharya of a fresh branch of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, ISKCON. Okay, so okay. Questions, comments, reflections, corrections? Prabhu?
Thank you very much, Suresvara Prabhu, for a very precise and nice description. You told about Dvaita, like finding two. So what is Dvaita Advaita? If you can kindly explain. Dvaita Advaita.
Dvaita, that was Nimbarka.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really not an expert on the Sampradayas. So I can't, I know there's one Purusha Trai Maharaj in South America. He really has made a focus. On these Sampradayas, I just researched enough just to get you through the concept. The main point is the Founder-Acharya provides the foundational relationship, the core identity for all of his followers. And I wanted to trace the principle in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, starting with those seeds. So I better not get in over my head there. I mean, Dvaita is pure. It almost sounds like Mahaprabhu, Achintya Veda Veda, but it's Dvaita. There's a dualism, and then Advaita. There's a duality and a non-duality to the truth, which is certainly true. In one sense, everything is one, but there's a difference too. So, anyway, as Professor Sanyal said, that Mahaprabhu's presentation of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva it reconciles all these different Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishta Dvaita. Sorry, I can't go deeper with that.
The other thing is, you never mentioned this Namhatta by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Namhatta. So if you want to tell us something about Namhatta, word.
Well, I can just say in terms of this lesson that Bhaktivinoda was such a pioneer, and actually we'll look at this in, what is that? Lesson 5, a little bit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was such a pioneer that he saw everything on the macro level, the global level, GBC. We need a governing body to manage this bringing Mahaprabhu's teachings to every town and village. And then he envisioned right down to Namhat and Bhakti Vriksha. He's the mastermind behind how it's going to go all over the world. A marketplace of the holy name, and he said he was the sweeper. Koda Nitai, Koda Nitai. Yeah. Sometimes we'd ask Prabhupada about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and sometimes Prabhupada would say, what can I say? He was a Vaikuntha man. If I had one... Oh, here's the Guru Das. No, he said that about his own Guru Maharaj, but Guru Das has a nice memory of... he's walking with Srila Prabhupada. And he says, Guru Das says, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is my second favorite author, implying that Prabhupada's number one, right? And but Prabhupada, he always knew the heart and the mind of who was speaking, right? So Prabhupada looked at him and said, oh, second favorite? Because he actually knew that Guru Das liked Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was like the original bridge preacher. He bridged east to west, east and west. Bhaktivinoda, he sent Sri Chaitanya his life and teachings. He sent it to the west. I thought he just sent it to one place. I thought he sent it to McGill University in Montreal. That's what I had always heard. But then when I was in Canberra in 2013, Adi Purush Prabhu told me that that a copy was also sent to, I don't think it was the University of Canberra, there's another college there it went to. And then we went to Oxford. And then he sent a copy to the American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, because Emerson had gotten something from the Thakur in the mail, because the Thakur heard that a lot of Westerners, prominent Western philosophers, were really excited about the Vedic teachings. The Thakur had sent a book in Sanskrit to Emerson. Sanskrit, one of his books, I believe. Yeah, it was, I think, Sri Krishna Sangita. And then Emerson was like thrilled to get this, vintage Sanskrit text. And then Emerson said, oh, this is wonderful. Do you have anything in English? So that inspired the Thakur to actually reach out and send this book, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, His Life and Precepts. So yeah, the Thakur, he had it all figured out on the macro level, on the micro level, how to do it. But he knew he didn't have enough time to manifest it, so he prayed for that ray of Vishnu's sun. At least Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took it out of India. And then we're going to see in lesson 4 what happened, to the Gaudiya mission after that. Basically, the short answer is that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took it out of India through his disciples, called them back because they didn't get much results. It became not much return because it was very expensive to support these people over there. And then the mission began to unravel. And we'll see that, what Bhaktisiddhanta confided to Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta saw what was going to become of his mission, and he saw in the person who became our Srila Prabhupada, someone who could revive it, basically. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Okay, that's the best I can do with that.
Thank you.
Yes, Prabhu. Microphone.
But Prabhu, you did not complete the story about
What?
the second favorite author, and then what did Prabhupada reply?
I'm sorry?
You were speaking about how Prabhupada's disciple said that Srila
Oh, yeah, Guru Das. Yeah, so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is my second favorite author. So Prabhupada said, oh, second favorite? I think that might have been all Guru Das said, because Guru Das laughed because he knew that Prabhupada knew that on some level Guru Das actually liked Bhaktivinoda's writings even more because of, I don't know. I think this is when Prabhupada said, if I had even a fraction of the potency of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then I could do something. Prabhupada was very humbly acknowledging that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was like super guru, But of course, what our Prabhupada did was most super by the mercy of Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta, etc. Okay.
Guruji, there was this slide the four founder-acharyas and their prehistorical teachers.
Mm-hmm.
In that, Adi Shankaracharya doesn't come?
No, because he's not Vaishnava. Although, ironically, he's the topmost Vaishnava. He's an incarnation of Lord Shiva, right? But it says in the Shiva Purana that in the Kali Yuga, the Lord Shiva will appear disguised as a Brahmin and preach Mayavad to drive out the Buddhism, and to get people back in the Vedas. So what did Shankara say at the end of his life? Do you know? After juggling the Vedas to come out with to screw out an impersonal conclusion, which is still what Mayavadis follow, Sharira Bhashya, the impersonal take on the Vedanta, then Shankara showed his true colors as the topmost Vaishnava. Bhajagovindam, 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 Buddha Mate. Pretty strong, huh? Samprapte sanahite kali, nahi nahi rakshate dukrin karane. Worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, you fools and rascals. Your grammatical word jugglery by juggling prefixes and suffixes to come out with some impersonal conclusion will not save you at the time of death. So you must Bhaja Govindam. Yeah, so he's not Vaishnava. Although he is Vaishnava, but he's not playing the role of Vaishnava. Just like Lord Buddha, he's an incarnation of Krishna. Can you imagine the wild time, place, and circumstance where the incarnation of God has to preach voidism? He has to preach there's no God, there's no personal God, there's just void. Right? But that's what God has to do. Sometimes God has to preach atheism to get people to be a little pious, because Buddha, Keshavadrita Buddha Sharira, he came, Nindasi Jaggavidhe, he came to stop the animal slaughter, which is forbidden in Kali Yuga, because in Kali Yuga nobody's qualified to rejuvenate the life of the animal. So horse sacrifice is forbidden, cow sacrifice, etc. But they were just using the plea of there's some ritual in the Vedas that allows you to butcher, right? But it was just wholesale slaughter. So Buddha's main principle was Mahing Syad Sarva Bhutani, never commit violence to anyone. So he was always, Buddha, the enlightened one, very peaceful, calm, non-violent. Right? So he was tricking the misusers of the Vedas into becoming a little pious by following him. But still it was voidistic, so Shankara came to bring the evolution to a higher level, to get people back into the Vedas, but it was too much of a stretch to get him into the personal conclusion, so he just juggled the prefixes and the suffixes. He kicked out the Buddhists, and he established Mayavad. And then Ramanuja and Madhva, later, they took it to a higher point. They kicked out Shankara's philosophy. And then Mahaprabhu came, and that was the ultimate conclusion. Yeah, the absolute truth is inconceivably and simultaneously one and different. Oneness with variety. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. How are we doing? 3 minutes left. Okay, I see a hand there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Probably an extension to the same question one of the Prabhu was asking. Why do we have 4 different sampradayas?
Why do we have?
And having 4 different sampradayas, is it creating an understanding of the concept of God in the modern days?
Okay, that's interesting. Again, I'm not really an expert on the 4 sampradayas, but I do know a few things that Prabhupada said. Sometimes Prabhupada would compare the 4 sampradayas to different political parties. Interesting, huh? Well, remember that all the 4 sampradayas have something in common. What do they have in common? Okay, raise your hand. Okay?
followers of Vishnu or worshipping the Vishnu.
They accept that God is a person, not imperson. So that's great. And that's why Prabhupada would quote Ramanuja, Madhva, like that, Nimbarka, Vishnu Swami. He would say that. All the great acharyas, and then he'd rattle off those founder-acharyas. But because they're presenting different aspects of the absolute truth, they're not all the same. So just like in America now, this is embarrassing, but there are people running for president against the current disgrace of the White House. So it's just a nominating process. There's about 12 of them. And one of them is a Vaishnavi, as you probably know, Tulsi Gabbard. So they're all united in one thing, all these candidates. They want to get rid of this guy, this modern Vena. But they're pretty different too. If you get down to their platforms, they have differences. They're appealing to different constituencies. So why are there 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas? Why is there Shankara? Why? Because there's different kinds of living beings. We all have different, we're under the spell of different modes of nature. Why are there demigod worshippers? Because that's where some people are at. As Prabhupada said, there's really no need to worship the demigods. It's like trying to bribe an officer in the government for some special favor. Dhanang Devi, Rupang Devi, Rupapati Bhajam, give me a good wife, give me a good husband, give me wealth, gimme, gimme, gimme. But if you're just a good, Prabhupada says, if you're a good devotee, you get, Krishna blesses you. You don't need to separately worship the devas. So there's different sampradayas because there's just different, people are attracted to different aspects of the Absolute. When I was in Udupi, they have 300 alankars, 300 different outfits for Udupi Krishna, but they never go above Sakya Rasa. You'll never see Radha Krishna in Udupi because they just can't relate to Radha Krishna. They can relate to Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna and the Cowherd Boys, but that's as far as they go. So we're in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya, because when Mahaprabhu took initiation, he took initiation in the Madhva line, but then he took the line in a very special way, in a special direction. As Kaviraj Goswami said, bestowing what no incarnation ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant spiritual taste of, the intimate taste of conjugal love. So, it's just depending on, where people are at. So the Lord provides different gurus. But they're all worshiping the Supreme Person. Yeah, so, but in the Gaudiya line, we get the vision of the Supreme as the all-attractive Krishna. And the Goswamis, they took Mahaprabhu's teachings. He spoke so much, especially to Rupa Sanatan. He only wrote down 8 verses, the Shikshastak. And they elaborated on Mahaprabhu's teachings in the most wonderful ways. I mean, there's nobody ever could touch Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas to this day. Nobody can touch them. They're so powerful. And together, you can't even touch Jiva Goswami's. He's the greatest philosopher who ever lived, Prabhupada said. So how fortunate are we that in Mahaprabhu's line, you'll see in the next lesson how Mahaprabhu revealed to the person who became our Prabhupada what he wanted Prabhupada to do. And then how Prabhupada revealed that to us. When Prabhupada came to America, you'll see, the last thing from Prabhupada's mind, he had no intention of being the founder-acharya of anything. He was just trying to revive the Gaudiya mission. He was writing to his godbrothers. I'm here, I'm in America. come on, let's do it. Remember the mission? But they were too fragmented, too much, as we say, bad blood. No the non-cooperation that destroyed that Sangha in the 1930s was still, unfortunately, alive in the 1960s. You'll see this in the next lesson. So when Prabhupada realized what Mahaprabhu wanted him to do, then he gradually revealed his mission to us. You'll see it's a very fascinating evolution from obscurity in 1965 to Swamiji in 66 to, I call it, only he. You'll see how only he could lead them. To Prabhupada in 68, to when I joined, to Founder-Acharya. It was the month I joined was the month that Prabhupada formalized the GBC and directions of management and founded the BBT, and that's coming up. So there's different lines for different people, but there is a prediction, now I'm a little over my head, that all the lines, even all the religions, perhaps this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, will merge into the ocean of the Gaudiya Sampradaya as the Golden Age manifests. Everybody will be drowned in the ocean of Mahaprabhu's perfect conclusion, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Okay, we are officially past, but is there any burning? We're going to come back at what time? 3 to 4:30 to do the last lesson of Sambandha section, and by the end of this afternoon, we will have completed deepening our relationship in theory, the theory at least, and then we'll go on from there. Is everybody okay? Okay, remember, don't come up to me later. You got to ask now, or forever hold your peace. I do see a hand.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Yes, go.
So Prabhuji, if you see the previous acharyas or founders, they are very limited to a particular section of a land or something, like in India or something. Is it because the globalization or the preaching effect we forgot to identify this founder principle of Prabhupada?
Okay, you see, the other Founder-Acharya, the Founder-Acharyas of the 4 Vaishnava lines are limited to India. And then what did you say?
I said because Prabhupada started this whole movement outside of India, and he was in the mission of Mahaprabhu, want to preach and spread it out. So this principle we forgot to identify, and now we are catching up. Is that what the Founder-Acharya of Srila Prabhupada,
Oh, we forgot what? What do you mean?
Because of the spreading of Mahaprabhu or the ISKCON is spreading so much wide.
Yeah.
And the Founder-Acharya principle, or the founder of this ISKCON, we forget to identify.
As a worldwide movement?
Yeah.
No. Why do we, look at what's Prabhupada's pranam mantra. What did Bhaktisiddhanta tell everybody, not just Prabhupada? When Abhay Charan Dey and Narendranath Mullik bowed down, you'll see this in lesson 4, on the Altadunga Junction rooftop, when Prabhupada let his friend Naren drag him to see the sadhu, as they were bowing down, what did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, what did he say? You are educated young men, why don't you spread Mahaprabhu's teachings all over the world in English? He was saying that to everybody. And Subhas Chandra Bose, the revolutionary nationalist, went to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta to complain. You're taking people away from me. I'm trying to start an Indian national army to fight the British. And Prabhupada told us later, actually it was Subhas Chandra Bose and his Indian National Army that convinced the British that they were finished in India, not Gandhi's nonviolence. So what did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta say to Bose? Oh, don't put your glance upon these men that are coming to me. They're skinny fellows. They're Brahmins. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was trying to get everybody to, with the vision of taking this, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed for the ray of Vishnu, and his son Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took it all over India, revived Shuddha Bhakti, pure Bhakti all over India, 64 Gaudiya Mats. And then he took it outside of India. He went to Europe. He sent his preachers. So he was in his father's mood to let's make good on this prediction that will go to every town and village. So when our Srila Prabhupada went by himself with no institutional support, and his guru's mission in tatters, broken, he was still on fire with this vision. So even though ISKCON is only, you'll see, even though it's only a branch of, as Prabhupada put it, we're going to see next lesson, it's a branch of the Bhakti Kalpataru, of the desire tree of devotional service. This branch, because it's founded by a very confidential servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you'll see in the next lesson, a Senapati Bhakta, right? Mahaprabhu's personal military field commander, a mantra upasak, the great worshipper of the holy name, who will spread it all over the world. These are prophecies. I'm giving away the prophecies. I'm going to be asking you tomorrow. This branch, it's because it's infused with the spiritual potency of Mahaprabhu and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and the whole Gaudiya line. It has the capacity to go all over the world, even though it's just a branch. But it's such a branch. It's a very powerful branch. So Prabhupada will never let us forget that's, and Prabhupada did that. When Swamiji was in his 26 Second Avenue and then later in 518 Frederick Street in San Francisco, he told the devotees to bring him a globe, right? And he would spin the globe, just a little toy globe, little beach ball kind of globe with the countries. And then he would say, Brahmananda, you will go to Africa. And Shivananda, you will go to Germany. He would, and then you will go. He was just, and they thought he was, Prabhupada, Swamiji was just kind of like it was just fun. That he couldn't imagine that. It was just them and Swamiji, right? In this little ashram in New York, a little ashram in San Francisco. But Prabhupada, he was masterminding, following in the footsteps of Bhaktivinoda and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He was thinking the whole world. So Prabhupada will never let us forget that. As long as we're hearing Prabhupada, especially the Indians. What did he always say to people of Indian heritage? Bharata bhumite, manusha janma hoila jar, janma sataka kari kara para upakar. He would just hammer the Indians over the head. You are from India. You have a great heritage. Your gift to the world is that you have a great treasure. And of course you're trying to run away from it now, he would say. You want technology and all this, but you can save the world. Just, you're born in Bharata Bhumi. You're meant to offer the world the highest welfare work, which is spiritual knowledge, spiritual wisdom, spiritual culture. Don't forget it. That's how we preach to the Indians. How would he preach to us? You're not this body. I mean, he said that to everybody, but especially to the Americans, right? Yeah. So yeah, if we have our ear to the ground of Prabhupada's teachings, we'll never be bewildered, confused about who we are, what our mission is, because there's lifetimes of work to do. Okay, and there's so little time, so we better go to take prasad soon, right? Okay, please come back, be in your seat by 3 p.m. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.